Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Slasher Scotty. I am your host, Scotty McCoy, and boy, do I have a surprise for all of you. My guest tonight is somebody special to me because she has helped me in so many ways. It is Kim Gottlieb-Walker, and she was the on-set photographer for the original 1978 Halloween, as well as Halloween 2 from 1981. And she has also provided the actual photographs that she has taken from the from the films for my book, which is going to be titled The Ultimate Halloween Movie Experience, Michael Myers, the Man, the Monster, the Madness. And I thank you so much, Kim. How are you doing tonight?
I'm hanging in there. It's great to be here.
Awesome. I'm so glad to have you on. And I know your agent is my agent, Eric, and he has put us in touch for an interview that is also going to be included in the book, which is super exciting. And of course, our book cover is a collage of the images that you used for that you have taken, and also they're inside the book. And I'm really excited how this book is shaping up, and I really owe you a debt of gratitude for that because I'm really appreciative.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Thank you so much. So the first question I do got for you is, how did you get your start into film photography?
Well, my mother worked as a photographer's assistant when she was before she got married, and my father was interested in photography too.
Okay.
And when I went off to college at Berkeley for my freshman year, my mother gave me her little fixed lens 35 millimeter camera to take with me, and that's when the free speech movement happened.
Okay.
So I ended up documenting the free speech movement, which was my first taste of journalistic photography.
Okay.
And after my freshman year, halfway into my sophomore year, I realized that I didn't really have a major at Berkeley. I didn't want to major in rat psychology. And I absolutely loved. So I decided to transfer to UCLA and major in motion picture production.
Okay.
Guest speakers who would come to the campus, like Dr. Spock and Shirley Chisholm. I had a wonderful time in the film department, and I started shooting rock and roll and shooting interviews that my teacher at film school would
Awesome.
conduct for the underground press. And I put together kinds of popular culture of the day and Jimi Hendrix and all kinds of interesting things.
Nice.
Um, then I was living in Laurel Canyon.
Okay.
My next door neighbor was a girl named Trina Mitchum. She was Robert Mitchum's daughter, who occasionally shot photographs for films, was a set photographer.
Okay.
And she had been invited to do a film. She had seen my portfolio, and
Hmm.
she asked the writer director if he would look at my portfolio, and he hired me. And so that was the first movie. It's never even released.
Nice. So what was the movie again? Because you cut out there for a second.
Oh, the movie was, I'm not sure what the final title was. It was
Okay.
either The Good Time Band,
Okay.
and it starred Wolfman Jack and Lane Caudell and Deborah Raffin.
Nice.
Terrible. The script supervisor on it was Deborah Hill,
Okay.
and the director of photography was Dean Cundy.
Okay. That's awesome. That's awesome.
So it had a wonderful crew. It just had a terrible script.
Absolutely. So how did you happen to get involved to being the on-set photographer of the original 1978 film, and how did it happen to bring you brought back for Halloween 2 in 81?
Well, Deborah, as a script supervisor, went on to work with John,
Hmm.
and he recognized in her the qualities that it takes to make a really good producer. You know, very detail oriented and very efficient and really good natured. And so when the two of them wrote Halloween, and it was up to Deborah as the producer to put together a crew, she remembered the people that she had worked with on that previous film.
Okay.
So she brought me in. She brought in Dean Cundy and Ray Stella, and we ended up having this terrific crew.
That's awesome. That's
And
awesome.
and it became like a little family.
Right.
We were John's extended family, and working with him was like working on a project with all your best friends.
Right, absolutely. And I know John Carpenter wasn't the main director of the second Halloween, but I know he did fill in for some parts of it. Was that how you got brought back? Because John was also brought back for that?
No, well, John and Debra produced it,
Right.
and so they hired their crew that they knew
Okay.
was a viable crew.
Right.
And even though it had a different director, we all know how to work with each other. We
Hmm.
did the adjustment process before each shot, where each person could find the place that they could do their job from,
Right.
and but the atmosphere was very different.
Right. Yeah. So what were the atmospheres between the two films?
Well, the atmosphere on Halloween was always fun. It was always fun. We all enjoyed each other's company.
Right.
John appreciated his crew. He appreciated every single member of his crew and
Nice.
valued us for what we were bringing to his project, to helping him make his vision.
Hmm.
And so we all felt appreciated, and we all had a wonderful time. And
Right.
John has a very mischievous sense of humor, and so there was a lot of laughter on the set.
Nice.
And I didn't even have blimps when I made Halloween to silence my cameras.
Hmm.
So occasionally there'd be a scene where, because of the click, I couldn't really shoot during the scene. And
Oh.
quite often the actors would just reenact it for me. There
Hmm.
were even times where, for instance, when Annie dies in the car, Nancy Loomis, the only angle you could get that shot was through the window of the car, and the movie
Hmm.
camera took up the whole window. So I said to John, John, be sure to let me have this one. And so once they got it in the can, he said, okay, pull the camera out and let Kim do one. Do it over again for Kim.
Hmm.
And he let me kind of direct it a little bit so that I could get exactly the angles that I needed.
Nice.
And there were no egos on the show. You know, the actors were all young and enthusiastic, and
Hmm.
I know Jamie felt a little insecure after the first day. And so when John called her that night to tell her how terrific she was so relieved because she thought he was calling to fire her.
It's funny you mentioned that because Jamie Lee Curtis wrote the foreword to the book, and she mentions that story in the book in the foreword.
But she was terrific. She was absolutely wonderful. And
Yeah.
all the actors were so cooperative and so enthusiastic.
Hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. So what about Halloween 2? What was the atmosphere like there? How was it different?
Well, the director it was his first time directing a feature. He was
Hmm.
out of AFI, and he didn't have John's sense of humor,
Hmm.
and he had a much stricter pecking order.
Okay.
And so I don't think he really understood how important the stills were to promoting the,
Hmm.
and he didn't understand what I was doing on the set. So when the adjustment process would happen, like if Ray Stella, the camera operator, would look through the camera before they started to shoot a scene and say, Kim, I'm catching your reflection in the glass, move a little bit to one side. And so I'd shift a few inches and he'd say, that's it, that's fine. But if Rick heard anyone mention my name, he'd kick me off the set.
Wow.
So I was being kicked off the set fairly often, which was very frustrating.
I bet.
But I loved John and Debra, and I wanted to do the best I could for them, and
Mhm.
I did the best I could under the circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine. So do you have any memories from being like on set from behind the scenes that you would like, or any stories that you would like to share?
Well, just that John truly understood how important the stills would be, and
Hmm.
so he always made sure that I could get the shots that I wanted.
Yeah.
And often he would, if he was working with the actors, it was where the light was good.
Right.
Or I had him trained over the period of a few films. I had him and Dean Cundy pretty well trained that if nothing was happening at that moment and I was there with my camera, that if they at least pointed, it would give me a picture.
Hmm. Yep.
So there are a lot of pictures of them pointing.
Yeah.
My favorite
Yeah.
one is with John and Dean on the camera dolly during Escape from New York, and I pointed pointing in opposite directions.
Nice. Yeah, and the stills have become iconic. Like, look, I mean, just for my book alone, look what like the stills that we use, like Michael Myers being on fire. These stills are iconic, and you didn't think it back then because who knew that Halloween was going to be this massive hit, and become loved 40 plus years later, and these stills and these photographs, like it's history that is forever living on. Like, for God's sakes, we're going into like what, the 15th Halloween movie coming out this year.
Well, I think one of the most important jobs of a set still photographer is to be the set historian.
Yeah.
And I wish more directors understood that
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
50 years down the line,
Yeah.
you have a record of the making of the film, which is
Yeah.
very valuable, I think.
Absolutely. And when you release nowadays, when you release a Blu-ray and a DVD or whatever, you have the making of documentary type of thing. People want to see that. I love the behind the scene content. I love watching behind the scene, stuff and that, because it's really fascinating to see how is this done. Like, that death scene might look very complex, but it might be really simple to do, or it might be look very like, oh, that looks so easy to do, but it's very complex with all the takes to it, and
Yeah.
and that was the beauty of the original Halloween. You can make the movie without an ounce of blood, and you have still a scary movie, because stuff like that, it happens. There's a stalker watching your every move before he strikes.
And it's not about the blood and gore. It's about the
Right. Yes, exactly.
that John was modeling what he was doing on Hitchcock. He
Hmm.
wanted to prime people and take them
Yep.
off guard, and there was always enough humor so that when the Jack in the Box hit, it always took people by surprise.
Yep, absolutely. And that's what I absolutely loved about it. Was it wasn't a jump scare type of movie. It wasn't a blood and gore type of movie. It was a psychological horror. It was meant to be like, holy crap, he's watching me. He's watching this person in the window. It makes you want to look out your window and see who's watching me. It really messes with the mind, because that stuff happens. People are stalked. We've seen celebrities get stalked like this before. Like
But I
it,
think that's why John doesn't mind when people remake his movies,
right,
because none of them have his knack
right,
for creating the suspense and paying it
yeah,
off, keeping
yep,
audiences on the edge of their seats.
right. And I might get a lot of hate for this, but I like Rob Zombie's 2007 Halloween, but it never lights a candle to the original. I could watch now with Rob Zombie's Halloween. I'll watch it. I'll watch it, if it's on TV. But if I'm like, I'm in the mood to watch a Halloween movie, the one that I go to is either 78s or 81s. Those are the two that I go to. Those are the two that I love the most, and those are near and dear to me. And those, I mean, for God's sakes, Halloween is the one that it goes to. When I was in a class, and I think it was like in college, I was taking a class called the movies. We had to watch one movie from every genre. The first movie we did was the horror genre, and it was Halloween. They're like, if I have to tell you why this is the first movie we are watching in this class, then you shouldn't be in this class. Because I wasn't a film major. I took it from a humanities elective, but they told us about it because they wanted us to like kind of watch the movie and kind of predict what's going to happen, kind of read it and tell, like, and then like we would have a test after the movie, and it would be like, what did you notice about this? Did you notice this happened or whatever? Like, one of the questions was, did you notice something when Michael was behind the bushes that wasn't supposed to be on film? John Carpenter's cigarette smoke. That's how I learned about that. Like, it was a very fun class, and we learned about the history of cinema, and it was something. And I mean, like I said, the first movie we watched was Halloween. Like, if I have to tell you why this movie is the first one we're watching, then you should not be in this class. And for obvious reasons, it is an iconic movie. Absolutely.
None of us realized that it would be a classic.
Yeah.
But when Debra first screened it, she screened it at USC
Hmm.
before it was released, and the students put it down. They said, why you had a chance to make a movie and you made this piece of garbage? And So she proved them wrong.
Yeah, they're eating their words now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, what was it like working with Jamie Lee Curtis?
Oh, she's such a sweetheart. The first day or two, it seemed to me that maybe she was feeling a little hesitant about the still camera.
Hmm.
And I attributed that to the fact that she came from such a high profile Hollywood family.
Yeah.
And so maybe they were used to, trying to avoid paparazzi and
Hmm.
privacy was an issue. But I left my portfolio in her Winnebago. So she got to see the pictures of Jimi Hendrix and Bob Marley and all the different stuff I had done. And boy, the next day and for the rest of the shoot, if we were just standing by the side of the set and the light was good, she would fake a scream for me or,
Nice.
it was fabulous. It was just wonderful.
Nice.
And she is still just as nice a person to
That's
this
awesome.
day. She's just a lovely human being.
That's awesome. And it's funny because like she would fake a scream for you. I mean, having a scream queen fake a scream, like she can do it without even trying. Like she is the iconic scream queen. And I can only imagine, like I mean, obviously this is like we mentioned, this is her first movie. She was worried how she did, like she thought she was getting fired. And I mean, this is her first movie, and her mother's Janet Leigh, it's like she has like it's like this is my first movie, but this is who my mother is. Like this is why I got the movie, really. And she ended up, making a career out of it. And the funniest part is she's gone on record stating she's not a horror movie fan.
No, actually, I'm not either, to tell you the truth. It's just the luck of the draw that the first
Yeah.
film I ever worked on that got released was Halloween.
Right, absolutely. So the last question I do got for you is, I know that you have a few books in the works. So do you want to tell us a bit about them? Where can the listening and viewing audience purchase them? And just let us know a little bit about that and anything else you want to plug.
Ah, well, my book about working with John Carpenter is called On Set with John Carpenter.
Nice,
That's it. Um,
nice.
and you can get it on Amazon or you can order it through any bookstore. I prefer when people buy it through bookstores because I really like to support bookstores.
Yeah.
They're kind of an endangered species.
Hmm.
And my career has been so varied because besides working with John, I had worked on the rock and roll and with music groups and the underground press before. And then afterward, when John and Debra got me into the union, into the Cinematographers Guild, I started working on television and I worked on Cheers for 9 years and Family Ties for 5 years. And I worked on, some of the pilots for Star Trek Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. It was just such a wonderful, varied, fun career that many people said, well, why don't you write a book about it? So at one point I said, okay, I'm going to write a book. But in order to make it fun for me to write and to give it a through line, I made it a romance.
Nice.
So I have a romance novel that's called Lenswoman, and it's
Oh.
about a girl photographer in the late 60s and early 70s and a romance with a writer-director. It's not John, although some of John's behavior on the set where he would make sure that I could get the shot,
Mhm.
and make room for me when it was a tight situation, or have people, redo things for me. Some of his wonderful behavior on the set I incorporated into my hero.
That's awesome.
So it's a really fun read, and
That's awesome.
Eric Miller at 3i Books is
Mhm.
representing it, and he got a bite. So we'll see what happens.
That's exciting. And yeah, and I want to thank Eric, personally and publicly, for setting this interview up and for doing everything he's done for me, because he's done a lot for me. And I'm going to let you know now, my book coming out, aiming for late summer, early fall. But it's called The Ultimate Halloween Movie Experience, Michael Myers, the Man, the Monster, the Madness. And I'm going to let you know that this is not the only book I'm going to have out. I already have 5 out before, but this is the first book I have out under agency with Eric. And we are also in talks, which I can't go into detail about, but we are in talks of working together again for future books, and we are going to be releasing other stuff. So definitely stay tuned for that. Eric is a great guy, and he's done so much help for me, for Kim, even though Kim really didn't need the help. She's iconic. But I thank you so much, Kim, for joining me. It's been an honor, and I truly appreciate and thank you so much for letting me use those classic images for my book. I can't thank you enough.
Oh well, it's my pleasure. It was really lovely
Awesome.
seeing you and
Thank you.
having this conversation.
Absolutely. And I'll now, once I finish this up, I gotta, get this interview, a little edited up a little bit by volume and all that and upload it. And once I do that, I gotta get to work and get this interview transcribed because I have a due date of tomorrow. But I thank you, Kim. You have a great rest of your night.
You too.
Thank you. Bye.